Hey everybody, if you have been watching me for any length of time, you know that I have a ton of content related to dating and interracial relationships. And really the primary reason is because so many women, Black women in particular, are interested in the topic. That's really why. We talk about other things, obviously. I talk about relationships, Black issues, Black love, or whatever. But interracial relationships is one of those things that continues to get traction. And I think I would be doing a disservice if I was not to address what that means today in the current culture and context. Now, content creator, the Pink Pill, got wind of one of my videos and decided to give a response. And I wanted to review this because the Pink Pill, to my understanding, is actually really influential and essentially the mother of the swirling space today. She has been promoting and trying to encourage Black women to expand their options for decades, to my understanding. And so she has really been instrumental in getting these ideas out there and really trying to create a space to encourage Black women to expand their options and really date white men. And so she got wind of one of my videos and decided to respond. And so we're going to go over her response. Be sure to like, share, subscribe if you have not done so already. By the way, guys, if you haven't checked out the video, be sure to do so. It's not long. I think it's like around 10 minutes or so, but it's going to help give you context as to what she is responding to. So go ahead and check it out if you haven't, and come back here and watch the review so you can get the full context. Now, again, the context of this video is based upon a video that I did, whether or not dating white men specifically is empowering the Black woman. That is the context. I want you guys to keep that in the back of your head. That is the context. And that is what I base my argument upon, nothing else.
I just played a video that I found on YouTube that was posted actually 3 weeks ago by a lovely, beautiful young Black lady. I think her name is Chez Chardé. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly. I want to know, what do y'all think? Is dating white men empowering for Black women? It seems like in this video, she is saying that, Black women who date white men put them on a pedestal and pedestalize the relationship.
Okay, real quick. So you notice that she said that my argument is that Black women who date out pedestalize white men. So to be clear, my video was inspired by content that I saw from other Black women. There's a Black woman on Twitter who went viral for basically saying that, yeah, when Black women date white men, they're being empowered. She said that. And there's another video I saw on TikTok that went viral of Black women saying the same thing, right? And so I didn't just kind of make this up. I had seen this in social media. And then truthfully, I've had conversations with Black women who have maybe danced around. They haven't said it blatantly, but they have maybe alluded to the similar idea. And so that is where my question was born out of. I do not believe that 100% of people who are in interracial relationships believe this. I do not. But I do believe that there are a fair amount of people who do, which is why you see it plastered all over social media, and which is why you kind of see Black women in passing alluding to this idea that when they're expanding their options or when they're dating out, they're getting a better deal. This is a popular ethos.
Lyndon, this is okay. So first off, let me say this: no woman in 2024 should be pedestalizing any man at all. Okay, you need to vet these men individually, and like I always say, choose the best man for the job. I think that it's dangerous to say, as I've heard some Black women say, a white man, any white man will do. So I'm just going to assume that everybody in this room can agree that we are not going to say any white man will do. However,
this is something that I can agree upon, right? I believe a woman should vet irregardless of whether they are Black, white. A woman should vet irregardless of who they are.
Particular video is just a rehash of why Black women specifically being discouraged to interracially date and marry because of my ancestors, because of slavery, because your ancestors enslaved mine. Like, this is like, she basically gave a snippet of a point in history where she's saying, well, this is what happened 200 years ago. So keep that in perspective in 2024.
So to be clear, I didn't really add a snippet. I was adding context, continuity to the larger question on whether or not dating, marrying a white man is empowering to Black women. So I was adding context to that question because if you want to prove a point, like let's say your point is dating white men is empowering to Black women. Let's say that's your point. You would need examples. You would need examples over the course of history to help claim your point. So that wasn't a snippet. It was more context to the larger question of, again, whether or not Black women who date white men are being empowered. That it was context to that. So I don't know that I fully agree, but let's continue.
That is a genetic fallacy. If you guys know anything about logical fallacies, a genetic fallacy is, well, if your father was this or your father's father was this, then so are you. Nobody is doing this in 2024. There's nobody alive today that snatched Black women and wanted to produce mulatto children for slavery. It's not happening.
Okay, so I think there's a little misunderstanding here. A genetic fallacy might be like, all white men or all people of European descent, right? To be more specific, because whiteness itself is a social political term for the conversation. But those of European descent are all horrible, evil, and they hate Black people. There's not really evidence of that per se. Not every single person of European descent has ever done that. You have some who actually are anti-racist. There's no history associated with, there's no data, there's no information to back that up, scientifically proven. They're like, I just make a random statement about a group of people without anything to back that up. I didn't do that. What I did was provide context and history to what's actually happened. Because again, if you're going to prove a point, you actually have to be able to prove that point with some form of data, with some form of situations, with some history to actually back up why your point is being valid. So me providing context to a question is not a genetic fallacy, nor is it propaganda. It's just facts. I'm sorry if slavery makes you uncomfortable. I'm sorry if all of the systematic oppression that's happened since slavery going on to today makes a person uncomfortable, including a Black woman. I'm sorry. I didn't create the system. I'm just relaying the facts, So let's continue.
And she doesn't even go all the way back, because if she went all the way back, then she should have also mentioned that the tribesmen and chieftains in specific African countries brokered for both men and women to come over so they could make money for their tribes and get cowrie shells and whiskey and handkerchiefs in exchange for little Black girls, young women, to be brokered into slavery.
So this is where I think things start getting a little off kilter here. So I did go all the way back. To slavery. And to your point, I'm glad that she actually brought up, she's bringing up the slave traders, right? She's bringing up those who were essentially selling out their people, basically the trafficking class, right? Those people who were working with the Europeans, those people who were working with the tribesmen to be able to get those resources, right? Who was the trafficking class? Remember we talked about this? Who were the mother and the father of those who were collaborating between the Europeans and the Africans? Who were they? Who was doing the snatching? Again, who was the trafficking class? History already gives us the answer. I broke this down in my previous video. The overwhelming majority of the trafficking class was the byproduct of a European imperialist and an African woman who decided to marry into the colonial project. The overwhelming majority. Yes, there were African male chiefs who collaborated. Yes, they were. But the trafficking class by and large, and the collaborators by and large, the political alliances that were made that gave Europeans access into the land was largely done by marriage. African women who married these European men, who therefore gave these children education in Europe, also education in Africa to understand the culture. And these people came in, operated as a trafficking class, and then started to do deals. They were middlemen. This was literally, I broke this down. The Signaros, a few other, but I broke this down in my previous video. And so she's kind of proving my point. Like, for example, if we look at the Signatis right here, Signatis were Black and mulatto Senegalese women who have influence via their marriage with European men and their patrimony. These women of color managed to gain individual assets, status, and power in the hierarchies of the Atlanta slave trade. There was a Portuguese equivalent referred to as Nahara, the same thing, the name for a Luso-African businesswoman who played an important part as business agents through their connection with Portuguese and African populations. There was also an English language equivalent of woman of mixed African and British or American descent with the same position, such as Betsy Heard, Mary Faber, and Elizabeth Fraser Skelton. So literally, I mean, this is just a quick Wikipedia search, right? It's like you're telling you these are women who got rich off of the Atlantic slave trade by using their mixed heritage or using the mixed heritage of their kids to act as collaborators. That's how they that's how they gained. So these women were crucial in the slave trade. Without these women, slavery would not have been nearly as successful. And why is this important? Again, going back to the original question, when Black women marry white men, are they empowered? That's the original question. I'm providing you context for what has happened historically when that's been the case. I'm not saying this every single time, obviously it's not. But my argument is to just assume that you marrying a white man is going to empower you is not necessarily the case. We have examples where that was actually quite detrimental to the community. So let's be clear about what we mean when we be empowered. Again, all of the information I'm providing is going back to the original question.
I don't understand why they never go back that far.
Actually,
because there are no clean hands in this slavery discussion. The white people did not come over to the continent of Africa and snatch Black people from the shores. They did that in Slavic countries. I bet you guys don't know that. The reason why we were called slaves in the first place is because merchants first went to Slavic countries and literally snatched them from the shores.
But no, white people absolutely did go to Africa. I don't think that is up for debate. But these white people relied upon a trafficking class that I just mentioned to help navigate, or at least to help gain the slaves. They relied upon those people. And yes, there was a trader class. And let it be clear, sometimes people act like all these Africans over here were just like, yeah, sign me up, just take me. Like all these people were out here just selling out their people. The trader class was a very small percentage, an incredibly small percentage. Now, unfortunately, what we know is that it only takes a handful to do a lot of damage, but the African countries, by and large, were not overwhelmingly in agreement with chattel slavery. Like chattel slavery was that's like a modern concept, right? There had been previous forms of slavery across different cultures, but chattel slavery was something uniquely brutal. And so these African nations were waging war, Black men and Black women consistently. They were waging war constantly. You had Africans on ships who were waging war constantly. There were some who literally on the ship, they revolted, they took over the ship and went back home. This is documented. Let it be clear that while we're talking about the trader class, I want to put it in your guys' ethos that like the overwhelming majority of Black folks at that time weren't like, yay, like we agree with slavery, we should all be sold out. No, it was a trader class that was made up of men and women. A large majority of them were women who collaborated with European men. And they created a trafficking class that helped to essentially benefit them, make them the elite of the time. And they benefited off the backs of their people. But at the same time, you had kingdoms. There was brutal warfare for decades upon decades upon decades, centuries upon centuries. That's a more accurate description. Not that Black people were just like, hey, here I am, take me, and there's no fighting. Like, that's not true. I mean, there's literally documented wars all across the diaspora, but let's continue. I'm going on a tangent.
They didn't do that anymore because the Slavs have some balls. And so what the Slavs did was when they saw those, they got them a couple times, but once those boats hit the shores, you know what the Slavs did? They attacked. They said, oh, we know what you're here for. Not today, Satan, not today. That's not what happened on the African continent. They said, come today, Satan. Yes, today is your day, Satan. We have some lovely little girls and women, lovely strong men for you. If we could just have those cowrie shells and handkerchiefs and whiskey and shotguns. Yeah, thank you very much. And here are the people. So they never go back that far.
So I absolutely did go back that far. I literally broke down to you the history of how we got here today. So maybe she missed that part of the video, because I absolutely did. And she's completely wrong. I mean, I mentioned to you that there were like countless revolts and countless wars that happened across the diaspora that to resist slavery. The Ashanti Wars, the Zulu Wars, wars against the Portuguese, Futaturo, Queen Nzinga, absolutely waged war. I mean, the fact that we are free today is a result of our ancestors fighting, Black men and Black women fighting across the diaspora for this to be ended. So I think that is incredibly disrespectful to those who actually created it, fought and bled and died so that we can be where we're at today. That's very disrespectful. I don't know where she's getting her history from, but I'm like, I'm wondering if she's ever even watched a slave movie at this point, or she's ever actually what she's read, because this is completely historical. I just gave you a list of just a couple of words off the top of my head. So many slave ships that revolted and that turned around and went back to Africa. There were so many slaves that were revolting, jumping off ships, doing what they could, that it was an incredibly risky business to get a slave ship from Africa to the States. I don't know where she got that history from, but it's not history.
Which makes these conversations disingenuous. That's my first thought after hearing this. I'll stay on mute to hear whatever people have to say.
So again, let's go back to the original point. I haven't really heard any arguments to that point at all, but I wanted to be clear. Everything I'm saying, everything that I had mentioned in my video is based upon that particular question. I don't really agree with a lot of what she said. I think there's a lot of examples that she put out there that are not actually verified by history. I've given you guys a few examples with historical references. And this is just quick and easy stuff. Like, if you really want to go deep, you can. But I'm still waiting for her to perhaps show me that when Black women date white men, they are empowered. I'm still waiting for that. Let's see if she gets to the point.
Thank you, Pink Pill. Thank you so much. Yes, I definitely agree with you. They really don't go back very far at all. I mean, it was a 12-minute video. I mean, I kind of get the gist of what she was trying to say.
I literally went back to that point. So I'm like, maybe they didn't understand that point, or they just didn't hear it. But I'm like, I definitely went back exactly to where she was.
But I agree with you with, it being propaganda, to deter us from dating out and things of that nature. And I don't know, towards the end, it got kind of weird when she was like, you can still date out, but you can't. We get judged, but you're not. I don't know. The end was kind of mixed up for me. But did anybody else want to say anything?
Yeah. So, and this is, I forget sometimes that sometimes online in these spaces, it's really hard to have conversations with nuance, because two things can be true at once. I can absolutely say that no, a Black woman who dates a white man is not automatically empowered. Here's the example from slavery. Leading up to today, I mean, there's people who get married. People marry white men and get divorced. That happens all the time. So it's like, I could absolutely say no. Just because a Black woman marries a white man does not mean she's empowered. But at the same time, there are Black women and white men who have good relationships. So it's like two things can be true at once. But I think sometimes these conversations are online. People don't want to have to think that deep. They just want to be like, let's just entertain me. And so I understand that sometimes nuance can be a little confusing to people. It's whatever.
About what they heard, or if y'all want me to play it back, put a 1 in the chat. Because I know it's a lot of new people in the room here.
Yeah, can you play it back?
Can you hear me?
One.
Hold on, cousin. Hold on. Go ahead, Ms. Boston.
Real quick, because I'm not really in the greatest position to talk. Pink Pill, thank you so much for that. I will go ahead and add some more context to that, because that is one side of what happened to us. Although none of us can actually say for certain how we got here, I will speak to what I know has happened since we've been here. For me personally, I cannot see in slavery or nor today, dating a white man as a level up. My ancestors were forced to interact with white men in most circumstances as a survival tactic.
Yeah.
From the medical apartheid that the white man has played a role in, from the rape, and I mean, come on, we know the whole spiel, right? For me, I feel oftentimes they're genetically predisposed to fetishizing Black women, right? I've heard it, I've experienced it, and for me, it's not a level up. What's a level up for me is to find a Black man of substance that shares the same values as me, right? That I can build with. That is a level up. A white man for me may mean access, but it is not a level up, because I feel that there are certain personal sacrifices I have to make in order to even be with him, and it's just not worth it for me. And I know that is not what you like to hear, London, but that's what I stand.
I'm trolling you with the emoji.
Okay, so she actually answered the question. she said, hey, she went back to the original point, is marrying a white man level up, or is marrying a white man empowering the Black woman? She actually answered the question. Now to her, she's like, no, there's just too much going on. There's just too much complicated history. And for me, it's not a level up. No shade to y'all if you do want to do it. But like for me, I'd prefer to be with my own Black men. She actually answered the question. So thank you for answering the question.
Girl, I came up here to oppose you today. A level up for me is a good, clean Black brother on my side, and us, really just helping each other out and lifting each other up. So that's it for me.
What's wrong with that?
Thank you, Ms. Boston. Emily, I can't change it now. I still haven't figured out how to change it, but if y'all could just drop the links and share it with those closest to you on Clubhouse. So before I play the clip again, thank you, Ms. Boston, for coming up with the opposition side. Because what's the phrase that's in here? We don't want an echo chamber. So you think that finding a Black man that you said, what did you say on your level is a level up for you? Is that what you said?
Yes, ma'am. That's a level up for me.
Okay. We can agree to disagree. Anybody else want to speak?
Well, I want to say this real quick. The reason why she's saying that that's a level up is because in our community, that's the ultimate golden chalice. That's the search for the sword and the stone. For Black women is to, find a quality Black man who is, willing to commit to her, marry her, and form a family. And the reason why it's such a level up is because it inherently is rare. It is the exception to the rule. That's why it's such a level up.
It's so interesting because I know she started off this video talking about genetic fallacies. She literally just made a genetic fallacy. She literally said finding a good Black man to commit is rare, but didn't provide, I'm like, is there evidence on this? Is there marriage stats? Because last I checked, Black men are actually more married than Black women. They are more married. Although there's less Black men, they are more married. Working Black men also make more money than working Black women. They have more wealth. My point is, it's funny because I know she judged me for making a genetic fallacy when I was providing context to a question, but here she literally makes a genetic fallacy about Black men. I haven't heard any context. I don't know if there's any data or anything she could provide to actually prove her point, but that is the literal definition of a genetic fallacy. It's so rare to find a good Black man. Okay, based upon what? You know what I mean? So I just want you guys to take note of that. Let's continue.
Like, that's the thing that they're not talking about. It's so elusive. It's like finding the freaking abominable snowman and the Loch Ness monster. So yeah, it's a level up because it is so rare. So I just want to say that, like, I bless you in your journey to find that the Loch Ness monster, but understand it's because it's so rare that you find it a level up.
The Loch Ness monster is crazy. I thought we was calling them the unicorns. What happened? The monster is crazy. Even the good Black man is still a monster, according to Pink Pill. No, I'm kidding. Okay.
Y'all see what I'm saying? Even the good Black man is still a monster. She kind of jokes about it, but it's like, y'all obviously don't like Black men. This goes without saying. That is a genetic fallacy. Even the good Black man is a monster. Based upon what? You may have your own personal experiences. I don't want to downplay that. But if we're making generalizations about the entire population, which is a genetic fallacy, what information is proven to show that? Let's give us some data that speaks to an overall population trend, right? That's what I'm talking about.
I can get a good sense of what's going on.
Yeah, I'll speak to whatever I heard. As an ex-exotical myself, I actually understand the point of using a white woman to leverage yourself in the community.
Okay, I think I've heard enough. So, y'all want to see the whole video, check out the link in the YouTube description. The original point was whether or not it is a level up for a Black woman to marry or date a white man, whether or not it's a level up or whether or not it's empowering when Black women date white men. That was the original question. That was the point of my video. I personally did not hear anything from the Pink Pill that actually answered that question directly. A lot of points were made that I don't necessarily agree with. And, that happens sometimes. Ultimately, as I mentioned before, I don't have an issue with two consenting adults falling in love, whether they are of the same race or outside of the race, they're interracial. Like, I don't really care. The issue that I have, I think, is sometimes the way these conversations are spinned, and the way sometimes interracial relationships can be used to promote ideas that I believe are dangerous and toxic. The reason I brought up, first of all, some of those relationships with slavery was because I wanted to provide context to a larger conversation that's still happening and relevant today. I also wanted to let people know that I don't agree with when she said that there aren't white men out there targeting Black women. There absolutely are. There have been countless examples of Divester Disasters. I highlighted some in my YouTube page, and we continue to see Black women pop up missing, going on these relationships, going on these dates, doing these things with white men that they might be less inclined to do with Black men, because there's a sense of novelty around it. And my thing is, it's important to vet whoever you're going out with. If you're a person that says, hey, I'm not going to go to a person's house on the first or second or third date, I'm not going to do that, don't change the standard just because the person is white. Because we're seeing these stories of Black women who were like, y'all were in a really compromising position. I don't even think you would do that if it was a Black man, because we got more with our own. Sometimes we be just harder. We're harder on our own. But sometimes there's somebody else, there's like a sense of novelty, there's excitement, and you're willing to sometimes relax those standards. And that sometimes can be the very thing that puts somebody in a precarious situation. So of course, I'm not saying this is every person, but it's important to understand that it's also important to be honest with the fact that we're in a time when white supremacy is on the rise, people. It's not a joke. This wasn't like slavery was 500 years ago when it's all kumbaya. Y'all know that white folks are over here pressed about a declining white population. And you are literally having white militias and white supremacist groups pop up all across the USA. People talking about, white ethno-state. Some of them pushing for white ethno-state. Some of them, America first, make America great again, whatever term that they have, to essentially say that they want their kids to be white. Nazi schools popping up. Like, this isn't a joke. This is happening in America and the US. So for a person to just push interracial relationships as if there is little to no risk associated with it at a time when white supremacy is thriving and well, and Black people are a minority, to me is really dangerous. It's very dangerous. So I'm like, date out if you want to, just be aware. Just be aware that you got some folks out there who don't like you. You have people out there who target Black women. We've seen this. There's history to this. This isn't everybody, but don't be blindsided. And don't sit here and act like that's some thing hundreds of years ago. Y'all know it's not. They get in these relationships and they have to downplay their Blackness. Now, some are cool with that. Some are okay, and they think that's the price they have to pay. But at least just be honest. Just say, okay, you're gonna have to kind of play down. You can't really talk about these racist experiences. You're gonna have to deal with this and this and that. Be honest about it. But don't sit here and lie and act like you ain't experiencing racism up in that relationship, or that you're not seeing it, or that it's not in your immediate vicinity, because it is. Even if it's not him, even if it's not his family, the nature of you being, if you're a Black woman and you're deeply invested in a white community, you're gonna see it. And at a time when white supremacy is kind of thriving, it's thriving and it's there on the back burner in certain places, just don't be ignorant. That's my main point. Outside of that, y'all do whatever you want to do. It's up to you. Okay. Anyways, those are my thoughts. What do y'all think? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Did I miss it? Y'all just let me know down in the comment section. Thank you for listening if you've gotten this far, and we'll talk later. Bye.